Please subscribe my channel below. Before starts, let's introduce myself. I'm Mohammad Asif. I'm a solution architect at ABN Bank. In this session, we are going to discuss how Azure Blockchain Development Kit for Ethereum and Azure Blockchain as a Service can solve the pain points in blockchain development and managing infrastructure, automate process to trigger actions using logic apps into SQL database. Let's start to discuss with some pain point and challenges we have in blockchain development. So before going to start, we have first challenge is infrastructure setup. Infrastructure setup is a really a big pain point in blockchain development because monitoring service and infrastructure management all is a really headache in Ethereum, in Hyperledger, in any of the blockchain projects as of now. Second is integrating blockchain applications with your existing apps. So if you are developing a blockchain applications, at the end of the day, you need to integrate with your existing applications to get the data. So that is also a very big challenge. Third is managing identity. So are you going to provide access to your internal parties or known parties, trusted parties, or you're going to provide external parties? So managing their identities is also a big challenge on the blockchain network. That is smart contract development tools and resources. So learning a new language for doing the blockchain development and managing all the tools and resources parallelly is a big headache. Governance. So governance in blockchain to put standards and rules is also a big challenge. Difficult to scale. So if your network is growing and so how you're going to scale up the network, how you're going to manage all the nodes, it's also a pain point. Sync data of off-chain DB. How you're going to sync the data of all your nodes to your off-chain database is a difficult task. So let's see how Microsoft is helping in solving these pain points. So if you can see here, actually Microsoft is doing in general, it's doing a very good job, means providing end-to-end solution. We'll show in demo how exactly means Azure is bridging a gap between integrating your existing mobile applications, desktop application, web apps, or SaaS or IoT applications, and how they are going to integrate with your blockchain ledgers like Ethereum, Corda, and Hyperledger, others. So what Microsoft is providing is basically identity and key management, data platform, off-chain data storage, monitoring service, API management. These are the services provided by Microsoft in terms of Azure Blockchain as a service. And they are also providing for development kit, which is called Azure Development Kit, where you can create your project and you don't need to download all the resources tools separately. Everything is inbuilt in one extension. So let's start with seeing the demo. I have written a blog for this, so we'll go through together with this and we'll create a first. Our task is today's task is to set up Azure Blockchain as a service and create an Ethereum blockchain network. Then we will create an Azure project using Azure Development Kit. Then same project smart contracts will deploy on Azure Blockchain as a service. And then we'll create a logic apps to execute those smart contracts and save the data to SQL. So let's go into the demo. So first, if you can see here, what we need to do is we need to create a Azure Blockchain as a service. So we need to go into Azure portal, go create resources and blockchain. So if you can see here, Azure Blockchain Service preview mode is showing. What is preview mode? Preview mode is basically used for development. Yeah, it's not ready for the production yet. So we will go in Azure Blockchain as a Service. So you need to choose your resources. So if you are the new user, you can also create a Microsoft Azure account. So you'll get $200 free account, so you can play around with it. Now we'll choose the resource group because I have an existing resource group, but what I will do, I will create a new one for this demo. 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 There are a couple of reasons. So the West Europe region and the Southeast Asia. So I'm going to choose Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, the protocols basically is available Quorum. Quorum is a by default protocol. So Quorum is an enterprise version of Ethereum. So let's try to create a consortium. Consortium is nothing but it's a group of organizations, so where they will do all the transactions. So if you are going to create Azure Blockchain as a Service, so you are the admin for this consortium. Otherwise, if you are going to join others, so you will be as a member, you'll join as a member. So in this way, I'm going to create one consortium. Now you need to provide a member details. So I'm going to create a consortium member, and you need to remember the password for this member. In pricing tier, we have two options. One is basic tier, second is standard. So the difference between basic tier is they have one core, and for standard they have two cores, computing storage, and for development we can choose basic initially. We'll get one transaction node and one validator node. Transaction node basically it will manage all your transactions, and validator node will be used for verifying your transactions. In standard, we will get two validators node and one transaction node. So I'm going to choose a basic tier. Then, because for this node, I need to provide a password. So I will provide a password. So now we'll create review and create. So it will show you all the details. So basically this, I have a resource group blockchain demo 1, region Southeast Asia, and then consortium name and member name. So let's go and create. So it is creating Azure Blockchain as a Service. If you can see, we are going to create a Ethereum network within just few clicks. So that's the beauty of Azure services. Now let's go and create Azure Blockchain project. So we'll go in VS Code. Before creating a project, you need to go in extensions, and you need to make sure that you have to install Azure Blockchain Development Kit. I have already installed this Azure Blockchain Development Kit for Ethereum. So if you haven't installed, so you need to install this first before creating a project. So let's create a project now. So if you can see, I have in the blog, I have already mentioned this how you will create the Azure Blockchain service by going blockchain and choosing blockchain preview. Then you need to fill all the details. After a review and create, blockchain will be created, consortium will be created. Okay, now let's go and see if it's still okay. So let's go and create project. So if you see in the command palette, I have a option Azure Blockchain, new Solidity project, and yeah, so I will choose new Solidity project. There are two options. One is for basic project and one is for truffle box project. Basic project will create basic Solidity applications. For truffle box, basically is you can see here truffle box. There are a couple of predefined templates available. So you can choose any one of them and that project will be created. So it is good for doing the development. If you are trying with different projects, so you'll get the idea how you can do smart contract development and can interact with the different kind of applications. Yeah. So I'm going to create an initial blockchain project. Let me go and save. So my project is being created. For creating the same project, if you are doing in without a development kit, it's take a couple of steps to create a project. You need to install a couple of tools before doing this. But it takes a couple of minutes to create Azure Blockchain as a service. Yeah, so let's wait for a moment. So if you can see here, I have a project created. In that, I have a contract. So by default, I have a Hello Blockchain contract here. Migration sol file. This is used for deploying your project. Once you are going to deploy your project, so on the blockchain ledger, so it will be you need to include in this. Okay. So you can see you need to include like when you're going to deploy first time or like second time. So it will be you need to mention all this deployment for which contract you are going to deploy. So I have choose a Hello Blockchain. So it will deploy on the Hello Blockchain smart contracts ledger. And by default, it is backend. It is a truffle. It will be created. And in the left hand side, if you can see here, I have Azure Blockchain toolkit here. So we can see Azure Blockchain services showing as an option. Okay, let's see in the smart contracts what exactly we are doing here. So we have two functions here. One is for sending the request and one is for receiving the request, sending the response. So if you can see here, I am getting a request message and sending that request, and then I am getting the response. Okay, so let me show you. I have already one blockchain service created before. So let me show you that. So if you can see, this was the blockchain I have created initially. It have a member A. So it was a part of the consortium group of companies, and this is the member account, and this is the root contract address. All the member will have one transaction node. So basically, transaction node will maintain all your transactions, and this is the connection strings. So basically, HTTPS access key, this is nothing but your RPC endpoints. So by providing the endpoints, only you can connect to this Ethereum blockchain network. Let's see if my blockchain is still in development. Okay, and after that there is a blockchain data manager. So blockchain data manager is another service provided by Microsoft Azure for if you have a couple of means large amount of data you want to capture in blockchain ledger. So blockchain data manager can be helpful, but this is only available in two regions as of now: West Europe region and East Europe region. Other regions like I have created for Southeast Asia, these capabilities are not available. So basically what we need to do, we need to provide which transaction node data we are going to monitor and the connection name, endpoints. So by using event grid, it will capture all the events. So this is a test file in the, so here you can create your all your test for blockchain ledger. So means like your contract is interacting with your ledger correctly or not. So you can verify and you can perform. So okay, until blockchain service is deploying, just get a cup of coffee and come back. Yeah. Until then, you can just see here. I have a, this is a validator node which I showed you before earlier, and there is a member. So this is a consortium name, member root address, member details for the transaction node, and this is the access key, which is RPC endpoint, which I mentioned in that. So you can connect with your Logic app or any other blockchain to join the consortium by using these endpoints. Okay, before installing the smart contract development, so you need to have like Visual Studio. So before creating a project you need to have installed Visual Studio Code, and then you need to install the extension which I have already installed. Okay, you need to have a node version, node.js installed in your, and the Git, Python, Truffle, Ganache. But Truffle is for smart contract development project development. Ganache is for maintaining your local server. And after installing all these prerequisites, we'll create a hello blockchain, which I have already created here. So in the blocks, I have mentioned very briefly, step by step. If you can see the project structure, how it looks like, and in left-hand side, we have Azure Blockchain as a service. Okay, so initially I have created the consortium for a group of companies, and they have a member A, but now I'm creating a consortium which is a different name. So yeah, let's see when once it is created. So as you can see here, the consortium is almost being created. The consortium member one. Okay, so if we refresh, let's see if it is going to. Okay, so I think it's created. So if you can see here, this is consortium member one, and we have access key for this. So let's go and refresh here. Maybe if it is not, then just connect to the network. Azure Blockchain Service. So if you can see here, I have choose blockchain. So now I can see. So you need to go and connect to the network, and then it will show the option which subscription you are going to choose. What is the consortium So you can see I got both the consortium first, and group of companies which was I have created earlier, and now I have consortium member one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the contract, and then I'm going to deploy on this consortium member one. So if you can see here, I have my contract is already built. Now I'm going to deploy. So in while deploying the contract, it will ask you. So if you can see here, I have two options: member A, which was I have created earlier, and consortium member one, which is recently I have created. So I'm going to deploy on this, and it is asking generate mnemonic. So mnemonic is helpful for retrieving your private key, and later I will show you while going through how exactly we can retrieve the private key by using mnemonic. So what I'm going to do, my save it. So I'm going to save here. Now, if you can see here, my contract is deploying. It is deploying on consortium member one, which we have recently created. It will take 2-3 minutes to deploy the contract. After deploying the contract, we'll get the contract address. So if you can see here, we are deploying the contract by choosing build contracts, and then we are deploying. So Azure Blockchain, you need to choose Azure Blockchain. Then you can see here, I have deployed my contract. So this is my contract address where my contract is deployed, and this is my account address. One more thing I want to show you: when you will build your project, there will be a JSON file will be created that's called contract ABI. Basically, it will keep all the contract related information, where contract is deployed, and which server it is deployed. Everything, it will be in the ABI information. It will be here. So it is very important file. We'll see how exactly we can use it later. Okay, now let's go to. So we have completed until setting up Azure Blockchain as a service and spin Ethereum blockchain network. Then we have created a project by using Azure Development Kit and deploying the smart contract on Azure Blockchain as a service. Now, the last task we need to do is we need to create a logic app to execute that smart contract and save the data into the SQL database. So, how exactly we are going to do is we are going to create a logic app for this blockchain smart contract. So, we have a couple of options here. If you can see, we have a generate data publishing workflow to the smart contracts. So, basically, it will generate a logic app for inserting the data into database. So second will be by creating event triggers, and next is by microservices for smart contracts, and then will be by generate reporting. So microservice basically will be for if you want to call by APIs, then you need to generate by microservice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create for the data. So we need to choose the logic app, and we need to provide the smart contract address where we are going to deploy this. So we'll choose the smart contract address, and we need to choose subscription. Then which resource group? So I'm going to create a new resource group for logic app, demo logic app consortium 1 SQL. And we are going to deploy in Southeast Asia region. So if you can see here, the logic app is created. So this is the ABI file for the logic app, and this is the SQL file. So now what I will do, I will also create one logic app for HTTP request. So I will choose microservice, logic app, and then same smart contract address, and my existing resource group. So if you can see here, I have one logic app created for data and second for service. So what exactly we need to do is we need to go in portal, Azure portal, go for the resources and integration. We need to create a logic app which will interact from your VS Code logic app when we'll deploy any contract. So what we are going to do is we need to go choose subscription, and then we have existing resource group, logic app name demo one. Okay. So, so we are going to create. It will take 1 to 2 minutes to create a logic app. So if you can see here, how easy is to. So if you don't have any idea about the logic app, so you don't need to worry. You just need to go and create a blank logic app. Okay. So first, what we'll do, we'll create two logic apps. Basically, one will create for send request function. So what we'll do, we'll create this ABI, and we'll go to the code view. We'll replace this and save it. Then we go to the designer. So if you can see here, my logic app is created. This is for getting the request. And in connection string, why I'm showing yellow color, because I don't have any connection here. So we need to provide the connection. So demo it connection. We need to provide RPC endpoints. So RPC endpoints we can get from let's go in all the resources which we have created earlier for blockchain as a service. So we have created a consortium member one. We go in transaction node, consortium member one. In the connection string section, you can see we have access key. So access key is nothing but your RPC endpoint. So we'll provide the RPC endpoint. And this is private key. So either you need to provide private key or you need to provide account address and password. So how to generate the private key is you need to go in VS Code. So if you can see here, let me just so So if you can see here, I have option for generating the retrieving the private key. So when you choose on private key, so it will ask your mnemonic address, so which I provided earlier. So if I choose the mnemonic, so it will show you that private key was copied to your clipboard. So you can put the private key. But if you don't want to go for the option for private key, so what you need to do, you need to provide address of consortium member address. So member account address. So this is consortium member account address. You need to copy here, and you need to provide the address password. So which was earlier we have entered while we were creating Azure Blockchain as a service. So once we do that, so if you can see, all my contract ABI will be reflected here. So if you can see here, I have a smart contract and request message. So what exactly I need to do is I'm getting this response. Okay. So what I want is I want transaction hash as a response. And now I want to save this transaction hash into database. So what I will do, I will create a SQL Server connection here. So in SQL Server, I want insert query. So I will give a SQL Server authentication. Okay. So I need to provide a SQL Server name. I have already created one SQL Server database. So if you can go here, you can see I have already created. If you haven't created, you need to go and add your SQL Server database. So you can choose, you need to provide your database name, and it's like where exactly you want to create a server. So you need to provide resource group name, and there are a couple of options actually available. So what I have done, I have choose a basic tier, very minimum for this demo. But you have option to choose standard, premium, or you want to make it more. Yeah. So, but you need to make sure if you want to interact with your database to the Logic app, so you need to enable few settings. Let me show you. So I will go SQL Server. So SQL Server app. In the firewall section, I have you need to add a client IP. So this I have already added. Otherwise, in the rule name, it will not be added. So what you need to do, you just need to add client address, client IP, and this rule will be added here automatically. And to interact with your Logic app to SQL Server database, you need to allow Azure services and resources to access this server as a yes. So then only by default it will be no. But once you allow this, so your SQL Server database will be able to connect with your Logic app. So now let me go and provide the connection string. So SQL Server name, database name, I have in query editor. Let me go and log in. So I have a SQL Server database name SQL demo. I will, and then I have demo admin username, demo admin, and then I will provide the password for it. And this is the connection I am going to create. So if you can see here, database name, I have choose SQL demo, and the table name, it is still loading. So I have a state, I have already created one table that's called state change, and I will pass parameter as a set data. And in this, I will pass the transaction hash. So that's how I'm going to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the request. That request message, I'm going to call the smart contract. So this smart contracts basically will execute where we have deployed smart contract address, and it will get the response request message. Then we'll get the response message, and in terms of after getting the response, we'll get the transaction hash address, and then the transaction hash address will process into database. So Let me show you how exactly it works. So this is the post URL which I'm going to copy. Let me first clear my rows here. Okay, so I have already four. Let me truncate. So now I don't have any data in this table. So let me go and execute this smart contract. So what I will do, I will go in Postman. I will copy this address. In the body section, I will choose raw. Okay, send text. So what I'm going to do is let me copy this. JSON format. There is something the server side it doesn't respond. Let me go and check what is the issue here. Oh, I haven't saved. So let me save and try back again calling. So it's taking a bit time because on the blockchain address, it will check all the previous transactions. So if you can see here, I got the transaction hash address in back. So let me go and refresh and see if the data is saved in database or not. So if you can see here, I also received this transaction hash into database. Same as this, if I'm making the another request, my data will be saved in SQL database. This feature is really helpful because on blockchain ledger we don't want to perform the query and save the data for every read and writes. So what exactly we can do is we can save the data in off-chain database like SQL Server or Cosmos DB, and all the read operations we can perform from that database. But for the writing, we can use a blockchain ledger, so it will help to improve the performance. So that's how we can integrate your existing applications by using logic apps. And if you have a large amount of data, which you are like, suppose you have a IoT data, so in that scenario, blockchain data manager capabilities will be very helpful. In upcoming sessions, we'll discuss about it. So that's how it works. Thanks for staying until now. Okay, thanks. Let me know.